This is The Space Shot, episode 366 for May 15th, 2018. 1 year later, what I've learned. I'm John Molnix. Well, here we are, 1 year later. Today we're talking about what I've learned and how that's going to inform and shape the direction of the podcast for Season 2. Podcasting every day takes a lot of time. I've calculated it to be about an average of 6 hours per day. Originally, I had thought it was less, but I realized I wasn't counting all of my time. I've been reading and writing over lunch breaks, spending entire days off working on the podcast, and even doing reading while traveling. That equates out to about 2,190 hours out of 8,760 hours in a year, a quarter of the last year of my life, which again is probably an understatement considering the podcast occupies a large majority of my thoughts throughout the day. That may seem like a ton of time, and it is, but frankly, it's been an incredible ride, and I'm really excited for Season 2. Here's a list of my top 10 thoughts, in no particular order. They're about what I've learned over the past year, what I think about space exploration, and what my plans are going forward. This is by no means an exhaustive list, and I'm sure I'll come up with a few more once I'm done, but until then, here we go. 1. We are in the most exciting time for spaceflight right now. The early days of human spaceflight, Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo, as well as the shuttle, are just a taste of what's to come. They were the first tentative steps into low Earth orbit and lunar space, and in the coming decades we're going to push out even farther, with human and robotic missions. And that's something I'm extremely excited to watch and hopefully be a part of. Number 2, I'm still going to do daily content. It's just going to be in a different form than a podcast. Think more posts on social media, some videos, and more. Number 3, reading, writing, recording, and editing is one of the most enjoyable experiences for me. The creative process of reading about something, synthesizing that information into a written post, then recording and editing a podcast is a blast. Number 4, there were days where it was tough to get an episode out. I work a regular day job, which at times over the past year took up 12 plus hours of my day. The podcast has taught me an incredible amount about time management and what I'm capable of doing with the hours I've got. Number 5, a daily history podcast is fun, but there's so much depth I wasn't able to get into on a lot of topics. I've got a list of about a year's worth of weekly episodes on more in-depth subjects, so I'm ready to go with content for at least the next couple of seasons. Number 6, technical glitches can mess with schedules, but working through those, turning off a computer, and getting some sleep always seems to fix the problem. I've had a few instances of hosting issues where I wasn't able to upload a podcast on the day it released, but I learned to live with it. I made sure to get the work done and to get the podcast ready, so once my hosting was back up, I was able to release it to all of you that listen. Sometimes technology can be a pain, but without computers, the internet, and podcasts, none of you would be listening to me now, so I'm thankful for what I've got. Number 7. This year, I'm going to focus a lot more on documenting what I'm reading as I'm reading it. That means videos, pictures, sharing quotes, and more throughout the week. Number 8. Coming up with unique angles on pieces of history isn't always easy. Let's face it, some satellite launches are pretty mundane. I hope what all of you have gained over the past year is an appreciation for a wider look at space history, whether it's a boring mission or the launch and landing of Apollo 11. Number 9. I used to not be the biggest fan of writing, which is pretty weird considering I've written over 500,000 words over the last year, but it's amazing what happens when you write about something you're passionate about. You actually write. I know that there are a lot of teachers that listen to this podcast, and I see that many of you work tirelessly to engage students and do the things that tie into their passions. This can be the best thing you can do as a teacher, and I'm grateful that all of you are out there doing that work. Lastly, number 10. There's a lot to remember and forget when doing a daily podcast. There have been times over the past year where I've said I've needed to link to something, and I haven't because I simply forgot about it. I got busy with future episodes. I've still got a few links I need to share for this week, and all the notes from my talk at the Cosmosphere, so I haven't forgotten about those. They'll be out soon. That's the last of the top 10 list. For now, this is the end of daily podcast episodes. I'm going to be switching to a weekly format for the show. I'm going to be doing longer interview episodes, book reviews, more in-depth discussions on a particular historical topic or scientific topic, shows with more historical audio, like the one I just did for Alan Shepard's First Flight, and the occasional show that's really highly produced. If you listen to shows like 99% Invisible, that's the type of podcast I'm aiming for, with commentary, interviews, music, historical audio, sound effects, and more. Those shows will be more sporadic due to the time commitment for creating and editing that type of episode, but I'm going to be doing them as often as I can. The funny thing is, what does this all mean for my workload? Well, I'm probably still going to be spending about 6 hours a day reading and writing. There just won't be podcast episodes every day. Being able to focus all of my free time on reading and writing will allow me to put out more content that I think all of you will enjoy. I want to thank everyone in my life that's been here for me over the past year. My parents, sisters, and friends, as well as all of you listeners. You're all the best. I'm grateful for your unwavering support and for you listening in every day. One last thing. If everyone that listens went to write a review right now, we'd have hundreds and hundreds of reviews. Do me a huge favor and leave a review in iTunes if you enjoy the show. I'm super appreciative of the time you'll take to do that and the time you take to listen to the show. Until the next episode, I'm John Molnix, and I'll catch you on the flip side.